Hi, y'all. Welcome back to Transit Talk. I'm your host, Shanice, and we are getting into the astrology for the week of April the 7th through the 13th. And this week that is coming up feels like a slow, emotional come up. Things aren't necessarily going to be chaotic, but is giving like more of reflective energy. It might be a little bit sensitive, but it's definitely one of those weeks where you'll start to realize what you've been carrying and what you need to let go of. Because Venus retrograde is going to station direct after the full moon on Sunday. And then Monday, we have Mercury stationing direct. So it's just a lot of things that we've been holding in emotionally starting to come clear. So if you've been in your head or questioning relationships, revisiting conversations, or you just like you feel like your energy is all over the place, this week might bring you some clarity, especially with it being a full moon week. It may not be like instant clarity, but you'll start to put the puzzle pieces together slowly but surely. So just take your time and ground yourself this week if you do start to feel emotionally overwhelmed. Because, like, I don't know for if it was the same for y'all, but for me, last week was very emotional, and we gonna get to that. But let's get into this episode. I'm going to break down the astrology day by day, like I always do. I'm going to give you the transits, the energy, and some real life ways to work with this energy. I'm also going to get into the full moon that's happening in the sign of Libra. So, we're going to talk about why the energy that's surrounding love, our values, and where we can get more emotionally clear about those topics in our lives. So just get cozy, grab some tea, work out, take a walk while you listen to this podcast. Let's get into it. So first we're going to start with this week's tarot card. And the card that came out for this week was the Knight of Wands, and it was grounded by the Four of Cups. And that really sets the tone for this week, these two tarot cards, because the Knight of Wands is the energy that represents movement, or the card that represents movement. It's passionate, bold, and it's a bit impulsive. It's some impatient energy. But the Four of Cups underneath it is telling us, like, yeah, but are you even open to what's being offered? So you probably made a huge decision during this Venus Mercury retrograde season, this Aries Pisces season, and you made a tough decision, and now you have an offer on the table, but it probably feels too good to be true, or you're probably feeling like you're not ready to accept or move on or move forward. Take it how it resonates. But let's get into last week's energy. And so, like, last week we had some subtle but like major shifts. I wouldn't even necessarily say subtle, because it was a very much Mars ruled week. So we started off with Venus conjunct the North Node in Pisces, which really pulled us towards reevaluating our value system and our relationships, and look at those two areas of our lives from a more spiritually or emotionally grounded place. And then on April the 4th, we had a trio of aspects. So Saturn forming a sextile to Uranus, and Mars was also forming a sextile to Uranus. But Mars and Saturn formed a trine. So this basically was some movement in places that we felt stuck. Um, it was like slow moving energy because Saturn is involved, but it's steady. So Saturn and Taurus energy being involved, this is slow but steady. So you might have fought or fought. You probably did fight with Mars being involved last week, but you probably thought or found yourself making a choice, some long overdue decision that you've been postponing, or you were choosing emotional responsibility over overreacting. So that's probably what you were, going through energetically last week. And let's get into like what was going on within the collective. We had a Cory Booker moment. Senator Cory Booker, he took to the streets basically to protest, or not necessarily literally to the streets, but he did protest, and the astrology definitely lined up with it so literally. First of all, from what I pulled up, he's an Aquarius rising based on his birth time, with Pluto currently sitting directly on his ascendant. So his body, who he is, and how he's perceived. That's the ascendant. And transiting Uranus, so that's the planet that represents freedom, new neural pathways, or new ways of thinking. Uranus also represents activism. So that planet Uranus was activating his natal Mercury, and Mercury represents communication, the way that we write, and also like transportation and getting around. So that's Mercury. And Uranus and Mercury, well, Mercury in his chart and transiting Uranus in the sky were forming an exact conjunction in his fourth house. So that speaks of pressure from a place of emotional truth. He's also has a Virgo stellium in the eighth house, and the South Node is in Virgo. So cleaning out some karmic debt, literally with the eighth house energy as well. And it's being hit by multiple oppositions, his Virgo stellium, from Pisces. So you can literally see, or you saw last week, that he was speaking truth to power. And it was like playing out in real time, whether you agree with it or not, it motivated you to do something. And that's what that energy, when Uranus is involved, it motivates you to have some form of new way of thinking or doing something differently, that it liberates you. That's the word I'm looking for. But also on TikTok, or involving TikTok, it's still, potentially up to be banned. And I have my personal feelings about that. I won't go into it on this episode or in this episode. But yeah, so it's still in limbo, TikTok ban, and they are, I'll just be watching it closely. I don't know what they are doing. Like, I don't know if we're gonna see it being banned. I highly doubt it, but we'll see. So let's get into like the overall energy of what to expect going into this week. So April the 7th through the 13th. This week starts off with Venus retrograde. No, not Venus retrograde. Mercury retrograde. Stationing direct. And also Venus retrograde forming a conjunction with Saturn in Pisces. So this might bring up some emotional clarity and give you a reality check around love, boundaries, and long-term desires that you may have. So Mercury stationing direct in Pisces is like finally clearing out some mental fog that's been lingering since about mid-March, or maybe the beginning of the year for you. And then on the 8th, Mars will trine the North Node in Pisces. This is helping you act from a place of intuition and alignment. But the real spotlight, or the real event for this week, is the full moon in Libra that's happening on Saturday, April the 12th, which is pretty much packed with a lot of aspects. Like it's full of aspects, and it's talking to the chart ruler. And the chart ruler of the full moon, which is Venus, is stationing direct less than an hour after the moon reaches its peak. So yeah, this is a lot of emotional shifts that are coming in this week. So the moon's ruler, Venus, is deeply involved with this full moon. It's forming a conjunction with Saturn, the North Node, and Mercury, and I believe it's forming a quincunx to the full moon. So whatever's closing out or coming to an end this week is tied to your values, your emotional investments, and how you've been giving your energy away or holding back. Okay, so let's get into the daily breakdown starting with Monday, April the 7th. And Monday has a slow but deep emotional undercurrent, or current undercurrent, current underneath it, because Venus retrograde is sitting right on top of Saturn in Pisces. So we're being asked to look at our emotional investments, especially when it comes to our relationships, creativity, and values. We're asking to look at that from a more serious or sober, realistic lens, from a more realistic, sober and lens. I don't know why I can't talk other than Mercury retrograde, but here we go. This energy brings clarity. Saturn is involved and it's the truth. Saturn represents the truth, Jupiter as well, but we're talking about Saturn right now. Um, but it doesn't come without asking something first. It's asking us to change something, to get more serious about something. And that's towards our desires. Venus is involved. So Mercury stations direct on Monday, right after, and this might help us start piecing together um, the why behind what we've been mentally or emotionally circling since like mid-March, maybe the beginning of the year for some. The Leo moon on Monday brings a more expressive tone to the day. It's like a heart-led flavor to the day because Leo rules the heart, but we're still moving through quiet realizations on Monday. So this is less about doing and more about feeling things out. So the first aspect that we have on Monday is Venus conjunct Saturn, and this tends to feel like a moment of pause in love, creativity, or self-worth. It might bring up emotional boundaries, grief around unmet needs, or a desire for stability that hasn't been met yet. Pisces makes this energy subtle. It's like an ache you can't name. Pisces is the energy that rules different realms or seeing past those realms. So my advice would be to sit in your feelings and in your emotions and get really clear about it. Be honest about it because Leo is involved and it rules the heart, and Leo energy loves honesty. So just get really, really clear and honest about that heavy feeling that may come up on Monday when this conjunction happens. And if you are feeling this throughout Monday, you can journal through any emotional heaviness that comes up instead of trying to push through it or rationalize it. And take a break from seeking validation. Check in with yourself, check in with your spirit team instead. Rework something creative or relational that's been feeling really foggy for you. Ask yourself, what is this really built on? Like, is, for example, if you are having issues within your relationship, ask yourself, do you really love this person? Is your heart really calling out for this person, or are you trying to rationalize, manipulate, potentially, like, make sense of it? Then that should let you know, if you are in your head about it, that you're not following your heart. So try to, ask yourself, what is this relationship built on? And the same with finances. If you find yourself burnt out at work, it's a reason you're not doing what your heart is telling you to do. You're not living in your purpose, and you need to get clear about it and start making plans to get to your purpose, to get to the things that you want. That's Saturn. So some positive expressions of Venus retrograde conjunct Saturn in Pisces on Monday would be reconnecting with your core values in love, especially spiritual or emotional ones. This is a great day to pray, get connected to your spiritual practices. Um, Also, realizing where you've matured and what you want from people, and your partnerships. Like, what do you want? That's this Venus retrograde conjunct Saturn energy. It's asking you to get clear about what you truly want. I see so many people acting like they don't want to be in love. Yes, you do. Everybody wants love. So figure out who you want love from. And also, the negative expressions of this could be feeling emotionally shut down or disconnected from people, old wounds resurfacing, especially around rejection, isolation, or worthiness, and fantasizing about something or someone that isn't real or isn't sustainable. So, some questions that you can ask yourself regarding this energy would be to where am I settling in relationships or commitment out of fear or being alone? What needs to be restructured emotionally for me to feel safe and open again? Am I romanticizing something to avoid seeing it clearly? So that's the first aspect for Monday. The next aspect would be Mercury stationing direct Monday morning, and that's after a few weeks of us feeling really unclear, potentially dealing with delays or some emotional overwhelm that we might, not understand where that's coming from. So, Mercury stationing direct in Pisces will help you start making sense of what's being unclear. This shift that's happening isn't going to be loud, so it's probably won't be noticeable. It's more like a quiet moment of like, oh, so that's what that was about. Or you might start to feel like your intuition is easier to hear again. So some positive expressions since Mercury stationing direct in Pisces would be realizing where you miscommunicated and being able to clean it up without shame. So, holding yourself accountable, letting yourself be honest and freeing yourself of lies. That's that Mercury and Pisces energy, like getting clear, like, yeah, this is where I can hold myself accountable and say that I was wrong and I can clean it up now. So that's a positive expression. Another one would be having more clarity around your dreams, your spiritual messages, or confusing conversations that may have come up between this time, and getting back into a rhythm of creativity or feeling mentally unstuck. Now, some negative expressions of this would be feeling like the answers are coming in too slowly or not fully trusting what's emerging, like just wanting things to happen fast, emotional fatigue after weeks of overthinking, or you might be replaying some past conversations, resistance to forgiving yourself for something you said or misunderstood, and some things that you can do if you are feeling any of this energy. Just ease into the day. Don't rush any decisions. Let clarity come in. Reflect on what this Mercury retrograde brought up for you, between Aries and Pisces themes in your birth chart. So look to see which houses Aries and Pisces sits in your birth chart and figure out what was coming up for you and what was the loudest. And how did that confidence, expression, or spirituality in those areas shift? And if there's a convo that's been weighing on you, consider revisiting it with more compassion now. Like, have more empathy. That's Pisces, water energy. Now the moon is going to be making a few aspects on Monday. It's going to form a sextile to Jupiter in Gemini, a trine to the Sun in Aries, and a trine to Chiron in Aries as well. And it's going to square Uranus in Taurus. So this Leo moon on Monday wants you to express what your heart wants you to say. It wants you to express what is on your heart. But the aspects might make that a bit hard. It'll make it probably more you being introspective, especially early in the day. You might feel more optimistic or encouraged to share something, especially with like people who encourage you. But as the day moves on, and the emotional themes start to get deeper, and you may start to get more sensitive. You might feel a bit unpredictable and not act on whatever you want to express with that Leo moon. So, sharing your story with someone who truly understands you will help. And feeling recognized or seen in a small way would also help you get through this energy. Being willing to explore what hurts without letting it, dictate how you feel or move going forward. Now, some ways that this can show up negatively is you reacting defensively because you feel unseen or unappreciated. And some emotional flare ups or disruptions might come up. And you might also try to act too cool or aloof or be dramatic with this Leo energy instead of just being honest about how you feel. So, my advice is to speak up if something feels off, especially around your emotional boundaries, and to tap into your inner child. Get creative without feeling like you have to perform, but also stay flexible, especially in the evening where your emotions might, get a little bit more complicated. Some questions that you can ask yourself on Monday. Am I craving attention or affirmation right now, and why? Where do I need to be more emotionally honest? And if even if it is me feeling vulnerable, like where do I need to be more honest in that vulnerability? And the last question you can ask is, what needs to change so I can stop reacting and start responding? Get out of survival mode. So let's move on to Tuesday. Um, and it's a pretty slow day. There's only one major shift that's happening in the cosmos, and that's the moon entering Virgo. So it's going to be void for the rest of the day. And that means in the morning, we might feel a bit unstructured, kind of confused. You might wake up thinking about like 10 different things at once and not really feeling motivated to do anything, to be honest. But that's the moon being void. So it's a good time to like not really do anything. Don't fight that feeling. It's no need to fight it, just relax and do what you can. Once the moon settles into Virgo, things will start to feel a little bit more grounded though. So that Virgo energy just wants to help you clean up. So do some spring cleaning, organized, and just be more intentional, because Virgo is the energy of intention. It's a very intentional sign. So just be more intentional. And if you feel like your brain is overwhelmed and your body can't keep up with your brain, just try to respect it, because this day it's pretty slow moving. It's not there's not much going on Tuesday is what I'm trying to say. I don't know why it was so hard for me to say that. So like I said, it's a good day to clean. And some ways that this Virgo energy can show up positively would be getting back into your routines or creating a new structure that actually feels good to you and your body. Taking care of your physical or emotional well-being in small ways. It's an earth sign, so earth energy moves slower and it's more grounded. And it likes things that are tangible. Also, being more productive without needing to rush or overdo anything. So, like I said, take your time on Tuesday. Some negative expressions of the Virgo energy on Tuesday would be you overthinking your feelings or trying to be logical about your emotions. You getting overwhelmed by small details, very much Virgo energy. I have a Virgo Mars and Venus, so I get it. Or you feeling like everything has to be perfect. Oh, that energy be having me in a chokehold. Um, you could also feel very critical of yourself or other people, like that something's just not right. So what you can do is check in with your body, do a body scan meditation, or drink some water, simply drinking water, or just nourishing yourself. But being gentle about it, and do some soft resets, clean your space, um clean your bath. Like just cleaning up and organizing with this energy can help you ground yourself on Tuesday. So break things up into smaller tasks and keep things manageable and realistic. Some questions you can ask yourself: what small thing can I do today that helps me feel more stable or supported? Am I trying to fix something emotionally that just needs to be felt first? And how can I bring more softness into the way I talk to myself today? So that's it for Tuesday. It's a light day for transits, but still a good day for aligning yourself and staying grounded. The energy will start to build midweek. So use Tuesday to check in with yourself and try not to push too hard. So let's talk about Wednesday's astrology, April the 9th. The moon is still in Virgo all day, and the only major aspect that is happening on Wednesday, and it's in the evening, is a square to Jupiter in Gemini. And after that, the moon goes void again, which usually brings a kind of emotional stillness or limbo. So, kind of like yesterday or Tuesday. So, most of the day on Wednesday would feel kind of like Tuesday, just getting into some sort of routine um, with a bit of like mental pressure or emotional exaggeration kind of kicking in around later in the evening. So you feeling overwhelmed. It's a productive but mentally scattered day. This is the kind of day where you want to get a lot done, but your attention might just be jumping from place to place. Virgo and Gemini energy can both get caught up in loops of overthinking or trying to manage too much at once. So don't let the need to do it all override your peace for Wednesday. And let's talk about the only aspect that is happening on Wednesday, the moon in Virgo forming a square to Jupiter in Gemini in the evening. This square can amplify your inner critic to overdo things and to really work on your to-do list. You might feel like you should be doing more, especially with that Jupiter energy in Gemini. You should be planning better or keeping up with everyone else's progress. But just be mindful of that comparison energy or spinning out with small details, like trying to do too much at once. You're not falling behind. You just need a moment to pause. That's all this energy is telling you. This week is telling you just to pause with everything that had happened with the Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, eclipse season. This week is asking you to reflect. And Tuesday and Wednesday both are going to feel kind of weird. But some positive expressions of this: you could feel inspired to study, research, or dig into something intellectually nourishing. You realizing where your mental energy is being wasted and choosing to redirect it, and humbling moments that help you reprioritize without judging yourself. Some negative expressions could be you overthinking everything or trying to find the perfect answer without taking any action, comparing your progress to other people and feeling discouraged. Some emotional fatigue from juggling too many things or thoughts or tasks or worries at once could come up. So what you can do is take a step back from your work or routine that in the evening time and don't force anything. Like this week, I cannot stress this enough. Don't force anything this week. Just let things flow. Write your thoughts down instead of letting them spiral in your mind and overthink, and ground yourself through something that is tactical or repetitive, like again, cleaning up, stretching, organizing, working out. Some questions you can ask yourself on Wednesday: am I expecting too much from myself right now? What am I truly trying to prove? And who am I trying to prove it to? Can I let today be enough even if it wasn't perfect? So that's it for Wednesday. We're going to keep it simple and don't get caught up in a mental loop. Just don't force anything. Relax. Now to Thursday, April the 10th. There's a bit more going on Thursday. We have a lot of aspects today or Thursday. The moon is in Virgo for most of the day, and it's making about 6 different aspects in just a couple of hours. So it's a busy day. mostly opposition. So oppositions usually involve other people. And especially with Pisces being involved, this is also other people's energy. So by the evening, the moon will shift to Libra and immediately oppose Neptune in Aries, which is newly in Aries. So it's a day that could feel emotionally draining, foggy, or you just might feel sensitive. The Virgo, that Virgo Pisces axis is all about healing, boundaries, and service. So you might feel pulled to show up for others without really taking up your own personal space. So you'll be preserving your own peace, being more mindful about that on Thursday. So you'll, like, again I say, you'll probably feel sensitive, overstimulated, slightly foggy. It's a day where there might be some emotional heaviness, especially early in the day. You might feel like you want to do more than one thing or find yourself questioning what's worth your time and energy. But by the time the moon moves into Libra, there's going to be a shift in how you communicate and how you feel. But Neptune might still make you feel a little bit foggy. So all of those oppositions that's happening with the moon in the morning could bring potential tension between your logic and the task that you have to do with your emotions and intuition. You might be trying to stay on track, but your heart or your body feels completely different. These aspects can stir up self doubt, emotional distance, or a desire to escape with that Pisces energy. But the Virgo moon, trine Uranus, and sextile to Mars gives you a little bit of clarity and movement. So if you listen to your instincts and keep yourself flexible, things should go smoothly on Thursday. Some positive expressions of this energy: creating a healing structure that blends intuition and discipline together, emotional breakthroughs around why certain habits aren't serving you, gaining a sudden insight that helps you break free from some sort of pattern you've been stuck in. Some negative expressions of this energy is feeling emotionally drained from trying to hold it all together, over functioning, doing too much in effort to avoid feeling something, difficulty trusting your own needs if you don't make logical sense, or if your needs don't make logical sense. Um, so some things that you can do is meditate, build some space for your emotions, work on one thing at a time, and give yourself permission to slow down. Say no to anything that's unnecessary, and that will pull you away from yourself. Some questions that you can ask on Thursday: why am I saying yes out of guilt instead of the truth? If you are, what's bubbling beneath the surface that I keep trying to manage instead of feel? And what habits or routines would feel more healing than productive? And then in the evening, the aspects are different. The moon shifts to Libra, and you might feel a stronger pull towards connection, making something more beautiful, and emotional balance. But the immediate opposition to Neptune could make you feel mentally foggy around your boundaries, or make you second guess yourself and, question what's real. So if you are tired or feeling extra sensitive on Thursday night, that might be why. But some positive expressions of this energy could be heightened creativity, romance, some spiritual awareness, wanting peace in your relationships, choosing to communicate more gently, and feeling more in tune with your intuition. Now, some negative expressions of this could be escapism through fantasy, overthinking, or emotional projections, feeling misunderstood or out of sync with others, doubting your intuition, or reading too much into what other people are saying and doing. Some things that you can do on Thursday evening is to, put on some soft music, take a nice bath, um, watch out if you are having emotional conversations, watch out for being emotionally reactive and upholding your boundaries as well. Make sure you are upholding your boundaries. Create more. than you consume. So if you find yourself constantly buying or doing something, create something. So some questions you can ask is, what version of peace am I chasing, and is it actually available to me tonight? Am I Thursday night? Am I over romanticizing someone or something to avoid disappointment? How can I stay grounded in my truth without shutting down? So that's it for Thursday. It's a lot of emotional waves. So move with a lot of care, stay hydrated, and just try to be gentle with yourself, as gentle as you can be. All right, let's get into Friday, April the 11th. This is probably one of the quietest days of the week. Astrologically, the moon in Libra makes one final aspect before the full moon on Saturday, and that's a trine to Pluto in Aquarius. And that happens when most of us are asleep. And then the moon will go void all day Friday. So that means we're moving through a long stretch of like neutral energy. Um, this is kind of like a float and observe kind of day with that Aquarius. I'm not Aquarius, that Libra moon and Pluto in Aquarius. So today isn't about pushing forward or trying to push too hard. If anything, this energy is trying to help you process your emotions from earlier in the week and from the retrogrades and eclipse season. So with the moon in Libra and no active aspects after the initial trine to Pluto or the trine to Pluto, this is a good day just to rest and reset and just sit quietly and wait for the full moon tomorrow. And when the moon forms a trine to Pluto, this will happen, like I said, when most of us are asleep, but it will set the tone for the day. So there's a deep undercurrent of transformation, like something is about to happen, and emotional honesty. So something is about to happen and come up with this full moon energy. That is what this moon in Libra trying Pluto in Aquarius is probably trying to show us. And you may have an intense dream, or you might wake up with some clarity around what's been lingering in your subconscious. So some positive expression of the moon in Libra trining Pluto in Aquarius is deep self-reflection or intuitive downloads, a sense of internal strength, especially if you felt emotionally off balance, unspoken emotional truths rising up gently to the surface because this is a trine, and it might not be gently for some. So, depending on your natal chart, some negative aspects or expressions of this energy would be emotional heaviness that's hard to really explain. You might have like some vague sense of grief or pressure, a desire to control or overanalyze your feelings, feeling emotionally detached or withdrawn with that air sign energy. So some things that you can do is just to keep things simple, avoid planning or being too demanding that day. Journal about your dreams in the morning when you wake up before they go away, and use the void moon for reflection and some spiritual maintenance. So this is a good time to pray and to really reflect. Some questions that you can ask yourself on Friday would be, what have I been avoiding emotionally that's quietly asking for attention? Where have I transformed over the past few months without even realizing it? And can I be okay with the stillness today? So that's it for Friday. And so just, I would say, keep it light and let that be enough for Friday. Friday, don't overdo it. Now let's move into Saturday, which is one of the biggest emotional days of the week. We've got the full moon in Libra happening, and that's happening around 6:21 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, so adjust to your time zone. But this energy is building throughout the day. Excuse me. Libra full moons tend to bring our attention to where we need to balance, especially what we need to balance, especially around relationships, our emotional needs, and how we show up for others without losing ourselves in the process. So it's a bit of this full moon is emotional release, relational clarity, and some sacred pause energy. It's not intense, and it's not really a loud full moon because it's more of a revealing one. Like it's revealing something that we've been really confused about. So this aspect involved, the aspects that are involved with this full moon are pulling on themes of like partnerships, healing, power, and emotional honesty. Venus, the chart ruler, is stationing direct like 40 minutes after this full moon. So this gives this lunation a sense of finality, like some sort of karmic turnaround happening. Um, the key aspects that are happening with this full moon: a square to Mars in Cancer, so emotional tension, assertiveness versus some peacekeeping. Trine Jupiter in Gemini. So this is opportunities for growth through discipline, not discipline, through communication. So dialogue and perspective. A quincunx to Uranus and Taurus. So some uncomfortable shifts in relationships or routines. And it's going to be opposite Chiron in Aries. So some old wounds around self-worth and identity. And it's also going to be talking to Venus retrograde, Saturn, and the North Node in Pisces. So this is some spiritual clarity around our commitments and values. Now, the aspects that Venus retrograde, the chart ruler of this full moon in Libra, Venus retrograde is in Pisces right now. So the aspects that it's forming is that it's conjunct Saturn, Mercury, the North Node. Venus retrograde is also talking to Mars in Cancer, Uranus in Taurus, the moon in Libra, and the South Node in Virgo. So this full moon is asking us, what am I holding on to emotionally that no longer is fair to myself or others? Libra wants balance and peace. But these aspects, especially Venus stationing direct, are asking us to come to terms with how much we've overgiven, romanticized, or sacrificed for the sake of keeping things pretty or palatable within our relationships. So there could be breakthroughs in love, creative work, or self worth, but not without some emotional vulnerability first. So if something is being unspoken, misaligned, or passively tolerated, this moon is going to show you. So some positive expressions of this full moon: finally seeing someone or something clearly and making peace with it, and coming back to your truth after months of emotional confusion or second guessing yourself, realigning your energy in relationships, projects, or some spiritual goals. And some negative expressions would be feeling emotionally raw or off center, especially if you've been ignoring red flags. Tension in your relationship from unmet needs or unspoken resentment. Decision fatigue, not knowing whether to hold on or let go to a relationship or situation that feels emotional to you, or is pulling at your emotions. So some things that you can do for this full moon is to set up a ritual around closure. Do a full moon ritual that's centered around closure, emotional honesty, and balance. So some sort of ritual around those energies. Write a forgiveness letter to yourself or someone else and burn it or release it. Make space to just feel without trying to fix or explain anything. And some questions that you can ask are: what am I ready to forgive, release, or redefine in my relationships? Where have I been overextending in the name of harmony? And what does a balanced version of love look like for me now? That's it for Saturday. It's an emotional, reflective, and potent energy. But it gives yourself, just give yourself some room, and it gives you room to like really process what you're feeling. So process whatever comes up for during that full moon. And last but not least, Sunday, we're going to close out this week astrology with some energy from the Mars in Cancer. The moon is still in Libra early on Sunday. The moon is going to square Mars in Cancer. Then it will enter Scorpio and square Pluto. So today's energy can feel a bit edgy, especially coming off of that full moon. Like your emotional skin is a little thinner than usual. You are very sensitive. It's not really a bad day per se, but it's definitely one where you want to stay mindful of how you are reacting, especially when the moon talks to Mars in Cancer. The full moon fallout plus Scorpio moon energy can make you feel small, or it can not necessarily small, but it can make even the smallest things feel like big, like dramatic or triggering to you if you're not grounded. So this is not the day to like force harmony or peace or pretend that you're okay. The Scorpio moon does not want to pretend, okay? These aspects can stir up some emotional discomfort, but also create space for deeper truth and power. So you can reclaim that power if you step in that truth. It's about emotional depth and not just the intensity from it. You're being invited to explore what's really underneath the reactions that you may have. So some positive expressions of this would be to be honest about your emotions, some honest emotional release or catharsis, uh, crying, journaling, or just talking it out can help. Insight into your emotional patterns or generational triggers could come up. Deep inner work that shifts how you show up in your relationships. So, those are some positive expressions. Some negative expressions could be mood swings, irritability, or lashing out due to emotional overwhelm. You could be passive aggressive in your relationships or even online. Obsessive thoughts or emotional spirals, especially surrounding like power, control, and manipulation. So, some things that you can do, take breaks if you are having intense conversations. Protect your space, protect your peace. Do some shadow work, journal, move your body, and don't overcommit. You'll need some space for yourself. That Scorpio moon energy needs some time to be alone. So, some questions that you can ask yourself: what fear or insecurity is behind the way that I'm reacting? If you are reacting in a way that you don't like, where do I need to take back my power without taking it from others? And what truth am I finally strong enough to sit with? And that's it for Sunday. So honor the emotional intensity, but do not lose yourself in it. Speaking from a Scorpio moon herself, there's healing available if you are willing to stay present in what's real. So be real and authentic. Um, and now I want to talk about like some personal things that have been going on in my life. I've been sitting with a lot of emotional healing. I have a Pisces stellium in my 12th house right now. Saturn, the North Node, Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde. So I've been sitting with a lot of deep ancestral past lives, trauma, grief, emotions, and they've been like resurfacing a lot in different ways. So these Venus and Saturn transits in Pisces have really been pulling at me. It's hard to even for me to even talk about. It's like it's pulling at me for me to be emotionally vulnerable, and but to also respect and uphold my boundaries, especially in my family relationships. I find myself revisiting old conversations with my mom, processing a lot of things in silence, very much Pisces 12th house energy. Pisces is in my 12th house. And realizing that just because I've forgiven something doesn't mean I'm not done feeling it. And me and my mom, we've just been having a lot of deep conversations that have been coming up. And hopefully, with this Libra full moon, I will be able to articulate better to you guys what's been going on, because I really want to like give y'all a full breakdown. I might do a separate podcast episode and video to tell y'all about it, because it's just been so healing and eye-opening, and I want to share it with the world. I want to share it with everybody because I feel like this could help so many people. All right, so that's it for this week's episode of Transit Talk. I hope that the daily breakdowns gave you something useful to hold on to and to use throughout the week, or it at least reminded you that it's okay to slow down and feel your way through it. This week's astrology is soft but very deep, okay? So don't rush your process. And if you find yourself second guessing yourself or questioning where you stand with people or your goals, trust that clarity is on the way. It just might not look the way that you expect it to look. So if this episode helped you or brought something up, feel free to share it with a friend, post it to your stories, or just tag me, message me. I love to talk about astrology. I love it. You can also book a reading with me if you want to dive deeper into your own birth chart and personal transits. Everything's over at my website, thecelestialgarden.org. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. I post updates, breakdowns, and extra content throughout the week. I'll see you in the next episode. You guys take care of yourselves.